As per the North Korean state media report, North Korea has suspended plans for military action against South Korea. Viewers may note that tensions between Pyongyang and Seoul have been rising in recent weeks, and North Korea had threatened to restart military exercises on the intra-Korean border and deploy troops to areas that were previously joint sites for industry and tourism. But according to the Korean Central News Agency, KCNA, things have changed, and Pyongyang's military commission took stock of the prevailing situation and suspended the military action plans during a military meeting that took place by video conference on Tuesday. As of now, it's unclear what made North Korea to step back. South Korean officials have been cautious in their response, and one of the officials said he was closely monitoring North Korean military moves while maintaining a firm readiness posture. Tensions have sharply risen after leafleting campaign by South Korean activists that urged North Koreans to overthrow the communist leadership. North Korea had pledged retaliation and was planning to ship millions of leaflets to the South. It's also destroyed a joint but recently unused liaison office near the border last week. This video is sponsored by the free-to-play military vehicle combat game War Thunder. We talk a lot about military vehicles on this channel, but what about trying them out for yourself? In War Thunder, you can choose from more than 1,200 playable vehicles from the 1930s to the 1990s and go to battle on more than 80 theaters of war. You can fly aircraft, helicopters, drive tanks, and command ships of all types and sizes, which have been carefully recreated from their real-world counterparts. It's available as a free download on PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One with cross-platform support. So grab your friends and give it a try. All viewers of Defense Updates that register using the link in the description below will also get a free premium tank, aircraft, or ship and 3 days of premium account time as a bonus. Senior diplomats from the United States and Russia have held a critical arms control talks at a meeting in Vienna. Viewers may note that the new START agreement between the two nations, which is in force for a decade, is going to end in February. New START, Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, is a nuclear arms reduction treaty between the United States and the Russian Federation with the formal name of Measures for the Further Reduction and Limitation of Strategic Offensive Arms. It was signed on the 8th of April 2010 in Prague and entered into force on the 5th of February 2011. The treaty limits the number of deployed strategic nuclear warheads to 1,550, which is down nearly 2/3 from the original START treaty, as well as 10% lower than the deployed strategic warhead limit of the 2002 Moscow Treaty. It's important to note that the US and Russia are estimated to possess about 90% of the world's nuclear weapons. The US has stated that its bilateral arms control agreements with Russia are outdated and that it wants China to be included in any future agreements on nuclear weapons. But Beijing has repeatedly said it's not interested in joining. US Arms Control Envoy Marshall Billingsley said that China was a no-show at the Vienna talks, posting a photo on Twitter of Chinese flag at empty chairs at the negotiating table. Billingsley stated, "Beijing's still hiding behind Great Wall of Secrecy on its crashed nuclear buildup and so many other things. We will proceed with Russia notwithstanding." As per Israel, it's hit Hamas targets in Gaza Strip after the nation was targeted. The Israeli military said in a statement, 2 rockets were fired from the Gaza Strip towards Israeli territory. Reports of explosions have emerged from multiple locations across the Gaza Strip late on Friday night. Some accounts indicate that 4 rockets were reportedly fired by Israel Defense Forces (IDF) aircraft at Fajr to the west of Khan Yunis. The IDF confirmed the attacks, saying on Twitter that the strikes targeted a workshop and infrastructure used by Hamas to build weapons. The Israeli government has proposed annexing roughly 1/3 of the West Bank. This contentious move has witnessed widespread disapproval from Palestinians and international supporters as illegal land grabbing. The U.S. government has approved the potential sale of 16 Mark VI patrol boats, as well as various weapons and associated equipment, according to Ukraine. These boats are expected to be a very useful asset for Ukrainian Navy and would most likely be used to patrol coastlines on the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. The U.S. military's Defense Security Cooperation Agency, DSCA, issued a press release on June 17, 2020 that announced that the U.S. State Department had signed off on the prospective deal, which is valued at approximately $600 million. The package includes 32 MSI Seahawk A2 remote-controlled gun systems, 2 per boat, as well as Mark 44 Bushmaster II 30mm automatic cannon for each of those mounts, along with 8 spares for a total of 40 guns. Each Mark VI will have an identification friend or foe IFF system, a sensor turret with visible and infrared video cameras, and a long-range acoustic device, LRAD. In this context, it's to be noted that Russia and Ukraine have seen several skirmishes, one of which resulted in the capture of 3 of Ukraine's naval vessels, including 2 gunboats and 24 Ukrainian sailors. Japanese Defense Minister Taro Kono has announced that Japan has suspended the establishment of 2 Aegis Ashore missile defense systems in the country indefinitely. The Aegis Ballistic Missile Defense System, or Aegis BMD, is a United States Department of Defense Missile Defense Agency program developed to provide missile defense against short to intermediate-range ballistic missiles. It's part of the United States National Missile Defense Strategy. Aegis Ashore is land-based deployment. Kono cited technical issues and rising costs as the main factors. But there are other reasons too, which include domestic opposition to the program. Viewers may note that Japanese authorities had to abandon plans to deploy one of the missile defense systems at a site in the country's northeastern Akita prefecture. The Japanese government finalized their initial plans to set up 2 Aegis Ashore air defense sites back in December 2017. The U.S. government approved the sale of systems along with supporting assets in a deal worth around $2.15 billion. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has said that the U.S. is reviewing its global deployment of forces to ensure it's postured appropriately to counter the People's Liberation Army, given the increasing threat posed by China to Asian countries like India, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. He made those remarks in response to a question during the virtual Brussels Forum 2020 of the German Marshall Fund. Mr. Pompeo stated, "We're going to make sure we're postured appropriately to counter the PLA. We think that the challenge of our times, and we're going to make sure we have resources in place to do that." He added that the force posture review is being done at the direction of President Donald Trump, as part of which the U.S. is reducing the number of its troops in Germany from about 52,000 to about 25,000. Mr. Pompeo said, "In certain places there will be fewer American resources. There will be other places. I just talked about the threat from the Chinese Communist Party, so now threats to India, threats to Vietnam, threats to Malaysia, Indonesia, South China Sea, challenges the Philippines." He further added, "To the extent that that changed, the difference in what the U.S. decided to do impacts adversely a threat someplace. It may be that other nations need to step up and take responsibility for their own defense in ways that they hadn't done previously. So we want to do this in full consultation with all of our partners all around the world, and certainly our friends in Europe."
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you find the video interesting, and kindly provide your feedback in the comment section. This will help us improve.